We're super excited to have you here for our first LD demo debate. I'm going to hand it over to our debaters and our moderator to introduce themselves before we go straight into the debate today. Super excited to have you all here and super excited to see this debate.
I guess I'll go first. Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a junior at Strake, and I'll be on the affirmative today.
Okay. I'm Navid. I'm also a junior, from Plano West, and I'll be negating in today's debate.
Hi guys, I'm Sarah. I'm a junior from Greenhill and I'm moderating today's debate. One thing before we start, before Michael gives the 1AC, is everyone should make sure they have flow sheets out and are ready to flow like all arguments in the debate because we will be submitting RFDs after, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So, and you should be expected to like give feedback. So yeah, I think we're good for the 1AC.
Okay, it's in the speech drop, which is in the chat. Sorry, I'm still a little bit sick, so if this is kind of bad, hopefully that's excusable. Naveed, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Uh, I'm just gonna assume that everybody else is good. Okay. Advantage one is the speed scenario one is the yes, the current U.S. approach enables trying to be interpretation that escalate 524. Flexible jurisprudence alternatives development the medical to U.S. interests and multiple customary norms and U.S. separate parties have customary and security sensibility the U.S. shadow multilateral venues the U.S. only needs to challenge global policy ratification operative diplomatic avenues avoid complex mechanisms allow a unified front tensions are high China stepped up grades in operations time SES is a flashpoint about TC25 SES a flashpoint high tensions framing neutral exemplifies grades in all transform season to China's territory for U.S. SES about credit security guarantee unclosed contrast of Beijing future depends on rule of law define crises defense is outdated SES conflict quickly escalates and turns every impact the plan is key 5 and 24 ratification signal peace centers of global locations confusing signal close proximity increasing accents and escalation quickly become catastrophic. Ratifying ensure passages the message is clear the seas under strike climate change ISR uncrewed vehicles nuclear vessels stabilizing trade fishing energy environment emerging tech shift tensions range to house solving company be uncomfortably close to single most calculations asterisk defense systemically underestimate the risk B-23 struggle to nuclear hawks not pay attention to war games avoid nuclear escalation yet China's in rapid nuclear buildup Beijing we consider nuke if the key threat survival of U.S. military necessity high attack basis risk immediate escalation countries act rationally battle country chances of escalating are significant a much broader nuclear conflict ratification solves U.S. military operations play right into Chinese hands by unraveling rule of law more 23 essentially enhance effectiveness and increase sources of the resolution given defense commitments substantial naval presence and strong interest neutrality of belonging to the U.S. less credibility lends encouragement to China makes it less likely we will avoid conflict media reduces effectiveness of our protest to let the law of the sea unravel but my treaty-based solutions scenario 2 is the Arctic epoxy spirals unraveling multilateral governance on every excellent threat and escalating existing conflicts the plan solves Baker 24 on cost relies on enforcement China's repudiation grants of democracy and worse in the Arctic foster accelerated military buildup and regulated destruction curtail trade inflammatory rhetoric and uncertainty adds to disturbing precedent Kremlin exit agreements relating to treaty stability CTBT and IFT and ABM negative credibility proliferates and escalates real threats Washington reelections embitters challenges dissolution allies compromise attempts to collectively chime attacks on infrastructure environmental degradation political terrorism military secure maritime security uncles false credibility countering accusations Arctic probing goes nuclear Raymond 24 warming smelting Arctic the land exposed flashpoint for powers like increased Ukraine impacting geopolitics elevate misunderstanding actions and escalation around Russia is relying on nuke to try and suffer conventional losses in Ukraine the plan solves and enables environmental regulations that solve biodiversity Kirk Factor 24 U.S. ratification solve territorial Solid Navy access and to the U.S. wide ocean laws ratification free stuff the Arctic Council has this agrees allow settlement under UNCLOS the Arctic Council raising sustainable development protection Russia the U.S. are reiterating commitment to UNCLOS dispute resolution submission accomplish orderly settlement at Arctic Council coordinate protection of the Arctic environment ecosystem biodiversity and conservation Arctic biodiversity loss causes extinction in 2013 Arctic biodiversity is irreplaceable ecological cost biodiversity provides innumerable services birds breeding contribute to global health and defense of future catches biodiversity provide the foundation for feeding and ecosystem part of the life on Earth ecosystems are interconnected thus the plan the United States ought to become party to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Advantage 2 is mining. Mining is feasible and inevitable ratification secures critical mineral independence and U.S. norm setting Gilbert and Bazillion 24. Recent tech advances the companies making extraction feasible. The U.S. is yet to ratify unclassified export companies are participating where China, Russia, 1-9 permits in areas claimed by the U.S. government and industry enable extraction cobalt sulfides, nodules, remote and underwater vehicles being resources are economical. China dominate the U.S. imports. All materials used cannot participate in the ISA. Deep sea mining is inevitable. Gales 24. Experts in DSM feel inevitably cropped up an overwhelming opinion opinion, odds with immediate demand, exponential energy AI supply is unable to keep up DSM-4 resources by 20 times. Capital expenditure significantly lower reusability of vessels. Sarah Koshy requires land, roads, accommodations, and offices, and mineral dependence, crushes military readiness, greenlight revisions, but escalates every hotspot. Ferrari 24. Threats converging MB, Ukraine, NOCO, nukes, and AO with weakened DIB, and rapidly escalated dependency for critical minerals. We can discern emboldens China to attack Moscow, ensure supply lines failing to signal Rio is not ready, adversaries to decide nation lack resolve, failing resilience, turn Taiwan into a hostage, and cobalt independently wrecks the global supply chain. Greenberg 23, the CCP China, cobalt vital application controls 72% of bankrupt, critical mineral supply chains. U.S. cannot rely on China's supply chains more concentrated and vulnerable than any other critical mineral. And extinction, Martin 21. Supply chain disruptions, rapid aggressive behavior, and international instability, shortages spill out into adjacent sectors. Whole economy seal the impact affect drugs, energy costs, living of basic needs, instability, conditions for conflict make government act dire and immediate. No defense. Trump initiates unparalleled REM trade wars. Hail 25. As Trump gears for a second trade war, REMs are caught. Last month, escalate Beijing's virus or geopolitical advantage with a 60% tariff. Beijing can share rare earths in an instant impact outlook of vulnerability from manufacturers and defense. Last is framing the standard is maximizing expectable being. Extinction outweighs bomb and bear 18. Humanity go extinct loss of all future generations. 500 trillion may be an underestimate. Risk equals probability times magnitude. Society try 500 times trillion times harder to prevent catastrophe than to save a life. All lives should be valued equally. Growth and resource consumption are sustainable. Innovation will decouple and solve ecological crises and transition to new growth. Fails and causes all of their impacts. Grosso 23. Rate of population growth has become inconsistent. Decline population is going to peak then plateau or drop. Meanwhile, TPF more than doubled. Feudalism, fascism wave the anti-capitalist banner. Milanovic estimates only 40% of peoples live at an income less than this mean would mean be austerity beyond dreams of richer suggestions for pulling off the a society of endless rules and negotiation, even and regulation. Even these reforms would be hardly enough. Living standards will decline. Capital emissions fell to 15. Underestimates the extent tech can decouple to U.S. crop penetrate, increase precision agriculture, and enable inputs to decline aluminum cans, lighter building materials more flexible since 1990. U.S. consuming less metals found decoupling in 33 countries that are estimated to say predictions of inaccurate gold. 400% larger silver, more 200% larger low has income, close to running out of energy or copper. Aluminum reserves are 25 times what they were. Norway leader in electric vehicles, our largest historical giant carbon intensity was trains and nuclear program, energy program, clean energy, Clean Water Act dramatically covered pollution. Montreal Protocol reversed ozone layer depletion. Yet growth continued. Global mining will have to greatly increase to produce energy transition. Minerals have yet to be sourced globally. This will create growth. Not at all clear how this mineral miracle can be a college contributor to the Eastern Republican. It is time for thinking big, not growing small. The correlation between growth and conflict is backwards. Krager and Mirkis 24. Trade creates interdependence and disincentivize conflict, not allow lead to third parties to show disapproval of conflict. Freedom is linked to small government if participants capture rents. Small government constitutes small price. Development coincides with poverty rates. Incentivize innovation creates incentives for civilian production more attractive than war. Success could make less freedom among freedom linked to institutions. Rule of law is a crucial freedom and democracy are possible related to freedom of power because of the market. Competition prevent elites from abusing power. Freedom and compulsory values promote tolerance because business relations make less conflict. There are various pathways not all the same because the overall effect is favorable. We cannot define a single mechanism.
Mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for cross.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Transition to degrowth. What does that look like in the Grosso 23 evidence?
The Grosso evidence just says that any transition to decreasing the current amount of growth that we have now would fail because there are numerous warrants for why we need growth, for innovation, for decoupling.
Is that growth
to
under
make
a
things
capitalist
better.
society or a complete transformation?
It says growth, I think, in the context of a capitalist society because it mentions
that's
profit
fine.
motives, profit incentives, etc., for companies to develop things.
That's fine. The causal relationship between growth and conflict, does that mean that if we can prove that capitalist warfare has caused more war, is that the causal relationship?
I don't understand what it would mean to be thumped, but our evidence is about the statistics that say that historically growth and capitalism have
So the
lessened
historical
conflict.
record says that. That's
Historical record, empirical analysis, but also research of a bunch of countries.
sure. The cobalt argument, what is that?
Yeah, just that cobalt is crucial to supply chains. The evidence is pretty specific about why
Is
we
cobalt only found in the sea, or is it found domestically?
found only in the sea, which is what our evidence says.
Which piece of evidence is that?
It's the card that says that cobalt is key, I'm pretty sure.
Is
Yeah,
that
cobalt
Greenberg?
independently relates the supply chain. It says that it's more crucial, more concentrated, but also it's specific to.
Can you point to a line? Is that the Greenberg evidence?
I think it's Greenberg, but I think it's also like the Gilbert and Basilian evidence, also the Gales evidence. It
Sure.
says that enables extraction from underwater vehicles, mainly only
Probing,
from
what's the
the
argument
sea.
on probing, the Raymond evidence?
Yeah, the Raymond evidence just says that because of all the numerous effects of climate change, etc.,
there are numerous more territories within the Arctic that enable Russia to probe within there to try and seek their own territories. Our
Sure.
evidence says that that leads to more skirmishes, more points for escalation.
If sure, the Raymond evidence says that Putin's involved in like he has his hands tied in Ukraine. So what's the probability of him launching a nuke if the evidence says that his hands are tied?
It actually says that because Russia is relying on nuclear deterrence since they've suffered conventional losses in Ukraine, it makes it more likely because there are more chances for escalation, more chances for miscalculation because most of Russia's resources are put into Ukraine, which is the line that you're reading.
That's fine. The Baker evidence, hypocrisy, what's the impact to that?
It just says that because the United States and Russia both are like pulling out of treaties continuously, they both keep continuously like it creates a negative feedback loop,
Wait,
which leads to
if the US is repeatedly pulling out of treaties, then why won't they pull out of UNCLOS?
it says that UNCLOS is a change in the opposite direction. It's that they're pulling out because they see Russia pulling out, which unlimits their power. The US would follow on by pulling out or saying that, oh,
If we
these
can prove
treaties are
that Russia
incredible.
wants to pull out UNCLOS and like the Arctic Council, does that prove that the US will pull out as well, especially given
No, not necessarily.
That's fine. I'll send the one and see.
While Navid's sending the 1C, I want to ask a couple questions about the 1AC and cross-X. So we all know this is going to be a policy BK debate. So does anyone have any ideas for things that Navid did well or didn't do well in terms of setting up the critique in cross-X? And what do you think were like the best moments of cross-X? You can answer in the chat or you can unmute. Okay, yeah. So the first response in the chat was that they're pretty sure that he brought up cat. Yeah, so that's true. He was asking about the degrowth cards on the method page in the 1AC. That probably indicates that the critique has something to do with capitalism, since degrowth is about like transitioning to a degrowth economy. Does anyone have any ideas of like what portions of the 1AC advantage, after hearing the advantage, could be the basis of like a link argument to this critique, or what do you think are like some things that we could critique about the app advantage? Okay, no one's responding. So I think like I guess from now on, I guess in the debate we should probably like engage with the questions because I guess the purpose of this is to dissect each part of the debate as we go. But like portions of the app advantage that you could critique, like certainly the app thinks growth is good because of the method page. Different parts of the 1AC there could be like a critique to like environmental rhetoric, which are just different portions of the app advantage that like Navid could take advantage of. Okay, I think we're good for the 1AC.
Should be in there. Sarah, Michael, y'all get it.
I'm gonna be.
All right, cool. On my first three. Again, order's gonna be 3 off, advantage 1, advantage 2. So 3 off, 1, 2. First off, the 1AC greenwashing, the approach and the legends, people who says the climate crisis is positing that good green advertising possible as long as we target specific bad actors that reinforce the neoliberal agenda, sanitizes corporate responsibility for the Christ. Article 21. Christ greenwashing mentions more of the mass political agenda, political district green advertising creates the impression of Christ under control, making greenwashing focus to criticism, extend this illusion further reinforces good green advertising, all of the bad possible the apples are rejected and excluded and making condemning the greenwashing makes it impossible the individual to depoliticize the preserve the overall credibility of green or capitalism, the greenwashing service capable to ever attention away from the refusal to take more radical action, anti-greenwashing laws and of the former green watching, which will challenge the neoliberal agenda by giving the impression that the problems already being just criticism and force the object of criticism carefully contextualized, never losing sight of the need for permanent questioning the market ideology. And we'll answer the preempt. Absolute decoupling is impossible. Growth can't scale. Outsourcing and digitalization increase emissions. Equals all 21. F demonstrates a strong relation between GDP and energy use. The relative decoupling is an effect of the geographical disjunction between production and GDP is captured at global level. There's no absolute decoupling with growth unlikely to be achieved. The growth-oriented system lead to large rebound effects, not accounted for efficiency due to digitalization, increase in energy use and emissions. The same is true for resource use. And we'll answer the growth preempt that Michael considered the cross that it's a by part of the capital system. We take over that, then that answers the preempt. And capitalism creates conversion eccentricity. 24. Set against accelerating economic uncertainty, government system shuts me on the limit to require the smallest shock to etch the tipping point, the corrosive vulnerability to amplify the near term, even the amid risk to interstate armed conflict, artificial intelligence pose arms, race, existential risk, the AI would raise the risk of accidental escalation, the corporate concentration showing a whole industries and vital areas becoming concentrated, the corporation dominate climate change, shift towards dictatorship and authoritarianism, fascism can be combated with the appeal to government's dictatorial regimes of necessary form of domination. Vote negative for communist organizing that requires collective struggle in the establishment of centralized organization and for both theory and practice is conditional. 18. Loose connection today. Market economy, not a political organizing. You stay committed. Leave sectarianism behind the class policies, not relegate race and imperial legacy to supplementary to anti-race and anti-colonial struggles are the base on which class struggles to launch radical changes dependent on people, the efficiency, lives, and qualities of its members, accountability, to face reality, PK, establish a direct democratic council changes based on the people. No will be happening for Vanguard and produce according to the people requires planning none possible without centralization. The democracy requires these structures to be transparent and urban political structures are really good. Critical engagement for theory and improved practice. And second off. Counterplan text of 50 state and the relevant subnational actors, including the National Governors Association, should suspend their cooperation in the administration of federal programs until the United States federal government becomes party to the annihilation law and state influence spills over, expanding dual sovereignty in the face of Trump with the planned statutory unwinds momentum. Pressing 24. States consider no influential implementation and reshaping programs and call up to federalism, national minorities become local majorities. Easier to argue, concrete, well-functioning practical examples, anti-commandeering, forced foreclosed attempts to report the states and enact this policy, anti-coercion, the equal sovereignty, restricted capacity to regulate doctrines, progressive framing, the Trump second term challenge for democracy, Democrats has to step up, and dual sovereignty ensures a flexible regulatory ecosystem necessary to check counts existential threats, Trump locks and disease, nuclear war, existential emerging tech. Washington 2. Texas world disaster to climate change, nuclear war, and devastated local government directly response to the public pressure. The immunity due limits on innovation lead to nuclear war that control the AI gene drivers and geoengineering, which involve great risk to the institution to strengthen the intolerant and ability to face successfully before the Cold War. Major innovations will help bottom up because the norms and standards that make their way into normal formal legislation. The standards of the governments come on force across borders to deal with international government strength, facilitate co-op where binding obligations and become cumbersome and slow and impactful. And third off, debt ceiling passes now with maintaining unity and avoiding fights or cable in 1230. Johnson Ford proposed a raised the conciliation they had a little for Republicans controlling the extreme larger margin, the small margin, the 1 or 2, the real only package, and the will be no help. They're actively obstructing Trump's trying to hammer rebellious conservatives back in the line. And the adverse political energy in the Senate causes long fights. Lincoln alone turns cases, domestic political backlash, waters down the implementation of new international commitments. Resolve 21. Such as the filibuster minority in position to impede treaties of this procedure subjected to partisan whims into the wider difference in international law, the integration among these the law, the CV. Treaties stay pending for decades. Even quickness is structurally avoided. A closure not effective. Efficiency need get 60 votes. Cut the card there. And failure collapse the dollar later. 24. Of force privileges in the dollar, force privileges do sanction adversarial centralities underpinned by high faith in investors and creditworthiness and environment concern with debt. These ranks over the debt limit has a catastrophic effect on the dollar, and that removes restraint after global nuclear conflict. James 23. Kept the world state on dominance of the U.S. dollar, the ongoing conflict, some countries and nuclear the dollars increasing vulnerable problems that are political, then without uncertainties about the long-term position markets, when the calm dollars, the U.S. strategy to defend Ukraine, Middle East democracy, to preserve the peace in the Taiwan, and the sake to work extremely well, robust monetary order, create a strong capacity to police against breaches of peace, and consider new core classification. That's one star, and on the first advantage. There's no terminal left to U.S. credibility. That don't let him bring up any new impact scenarios in the one area. He forfeited that right in the 1AC, and Russia complies less than the U.S. joins us. Offense breaking 24. Nature denunciation of the convention quality articles under study. Chairman of the Parliament Committee told the news we do not continue to debt. Chairman Putin said we're no longer to believe in their words. 64% belongs to Russia, and Arctic disputes stay cold now, which is 24. Russia will still attention to stability of these states have agreed to follow uncles only disputing walls falls out a little more than the tendency to engage in negotiations to these claims institutions on resolve disputes like unlikely stability and cooperation needed for development of natural resources and local goods areas. We observe a long-term sector deepening co-op disputes have been involved in the peaceful multilateral way to cooperative and local nuclear broken through. Risk of a nuclear Russian nuclear shutdown is really low. The would precipitate total isolation, precipitating mass protests. Any coup even partners will be pushing in sanctions. Russian CNC has relied on the 3% release protocols and on the energy strike would end a nuclear war. And SES key to Chinese energy security issue 214. Source of conflict and competition of research need for hydrocarbons identified by competition, and given the rapid coastal urbanization of China, the industrial revolution of Asia, and the SES become the hub. Oil reserves at least 7 billion barrels and 900 trillion cubic feet of gas, which offer energy security for China. And get that card. Go to the second image. Weaponization, non-unique and thumb cut. Your updates. Pearson 12.3. China said would abandon the export of minerals to U.S. at scales of gallium, germany, and antimony. Our supermarket materials were halted immediately. And Wyoming going to loan salt and minerals. Trump threatens impacted the Liberty 24. U.S. surpassed China REM after 2.3 billion discovered in Wyoming, dramatically surpassing the nation's 44 million type of minerals using phones, mortars, and military tech. China recently ban on rare earth extraction now erased. And Seattle's not binding to scope or solve this case. And no mineral shortages. The impact to industry for your market will still 21. Pessimists claim the research about to run out the 22 mineral shortage and fail to understand that industry humans can solve problems. The ACS is listening to the industry elements. The idea we could run out of hafnium and germanium. The world doesn't use much. Some is recycled. The early methods use coal. We realized that zinc could provide the world's superpivoted power plants. Install precipitators run depending on current methods. Every atom in the list of digital elements has a vast supply. And with little amount we can use this imponderable methods. Come on, sure we can find better methods. We've been adapting for millennia. The idea we solve today, the political development is a peculiar and no impact to climate. Consensus goal 23. Climate scientists not warning the box of the recent report of IPCC. Hundreds of scientists named risk extinction. Not one of them judges the climate extinction zero. The climate scientists studies climate change impact on society and warming caused by the natural climate variability. Yeah, that's an analytic. Didn't read the last card on advantage 2, and then yeah, I didn't read the last turn on the first advantage, and then the China's offensive. Gifford cross.
Okay. Good, Navid.
Yep.
Okay, wait, just to confirm, cut after the shoe card.
Yeah. Cut
Okay.
after the shoe card on advantage 1, and then don't read after cut the Faith 23 card or Fate 23 card on the second advantage.
Okay, sure, that's fine. Let's talk about the K, the beams card. What are the scenarios for escalation, or what are the scenarios for conflict based on capitalism?
Yeah, sure. The advantage is, the scenarios for conflict are through the beams evidence talks about how governance systems become overstretched due to the profit motive, which requires such a small shock to edge past the tipping point. That's quote from Beams. Talks about how AI is going to play a monumental role in the arms race, which is why the AI arms race, which is why it is in the context of 2024 and this year,
Okay,
and how corporations dominate climate change.
sure, that makes sense. Just to confirm, the politics is sad. You think that dollar hegemony is good?
Yeah, sure. It's
Okay,
conditional, and so is the capital.
how can the dis? Okay, sure, that's okay. SES key to energy security. What's the implication of this argument if there's no other part of the turn?
Yeah, sure. We don't read the second part of the turn.
Okay, that makes sense. The K itself, what is the link like? What is the Perugal card talking about?
Sure. The Protocol 12 evidence 21 evidence talks about how the way that the AF frames solving climate change is to go after actors. And for example, in the AF, you talk about how you go after China to help with rare earth metals or try to mine rare earth metals from them and take the monopoly from them, which inevitably causes more extraction. And that race goes to the bottom basically and
Wait,
prevents
what
capital
about the
for the
affirmative saying
profit.
that we should mine to stave off
Sure.
Chinese supply chain dependencies is trying to go after bad actors to solve warming?
Yes. And also that's just one link part of the Parkwell evidence, but also the doctrine of UNCLOS itself is a way to go after bad actors to go and try to solve warming by going after these bad actors and bringing the US in through ratification.
Okay, sure. What does the alternative look like? You said you take over the capitalist system. How is that supposed to solve the links then?
Sure. Yeah. We talk about how this fundamental like profit motive and motive for extraction, which has taken us into these ILAW agreements anyways, that link to the
So the
Parkwell.
alternative is international and it guts profit motive and any sort of like profit or greed out of international treaties.
Yeah, that's what a communist society looks like under the Kun 18 evidence.
Okay,
And cite examples like the PKK. And
okay, sure. How does it do that?
how does what do what?
Like, how does the alt just gut profit motive out of international treaties?
Sure. We're not defending the international treaty, nor do we say that we got the profit motive from
Okay,
international trade, but
okay, that's fine.
mm,
Sarah, do you just want to go while I start prep?
Yeah,
Four.
sure. Um, so good job on cross-ex, guys. My first question to everybody is, what do you guys think about 1NC construction? Like, is there any good things you think that the 1NC did, bad things, things you think could get Navid in trouble, or things that the tuner like would be helpful for the tuner? Generally, like, what are your thoughts? You can put it in the chat or again unmute. It was organized. Yeah, that's a good thought. 1NC organization is super important because it makes it easier to flow and judges can get arguments down clearer. Okay. Does anyone else have
Hey,
any thoughts?
Nathan Haughty, what do you think was
Oh,
what would you change or what would you not change about the 1NC?
Nathan Hawdy put a thought in the chat.
I
Wait,
did.
I was thinking that the Cap K and dollar hegemony kind of go against each other. That's a good observation. What do you guys?
Explain why that's the case, Nathan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
yeah,
Because like,
how can Michael use that to win?
because if Michael says like capitalism causes like a better dollar and like a stronger and resilient dollar, that kind of like disproves the cap K. But also the politics decide if the dollar can be more resilient to stop like what they talk about.
Do you think that so Michael asked this question in CrossX and then Naveed said the critique is conditional. What do you like? Do you think that was a sufficient response, or why is that like true, untrue?
Um, I don't know for sure, but did he just like say it's conditional
I
without like
did,
a
yeah.
reason?
He did, yeah.
I just said it's
I-
conditional.
Do you need a reason why it's conditional? Like,
It's just a status that the neg can put on the off.
Okay, we'll see
I
what
think.
we'll do
Oh,
in the 1AR. Actually, yeah, you can finish answering the question if you want.
no, I thought that like uh he kind of needed a reason why it was conditional, but if it was conditional, like I guess he could kick out of it. Don't know for sure.
It's just like a sticker sort of you put on the off that like you can just like it's up to me to decide if it's condo or uncondo, but it would be kind of silly for it to be uncondo. But yeah.
Okay. I think Michael's good for the 1AR because he's standing up. So yeah, we can start that now.
Okay. Um,
Wait, sorry, real quick. Someone left a comment in the chat if you want me to
yeah.
hit that there.
Yep.
Okay.
Michael did a fantastic job hinting at the permutation at the end of CrossX. That's good.
Okay. If everybody sees it in the speech drop, the order of the speech will be advantage one, disputes, advantage two, mining, the UCF or uncooperative federalism counterplan, the politics dissad, and then the capitalism critique. Is anyone not ready? Navid? I can't see you, so I'm gonna need like a verbal yes, no.
How about it? Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Disputes, Chinese graves and operations escalate sands, uniform dispute resolution through unclass ratification solved the turn. There was no impact read. Now the mining scenario, conceding all the defense on the Arctic and mining scenarios, conceding no warming impacts, sustainable impacts on cap. Now the UCF counterplan, perm do both, perm do the counterplans must compete via text and function. Singularity laws were fixed that seal the F minor modification counterplans that dodge court controversy on mean should, which is not certain, nor immediate second circuit 99. Should something that option, the true shall expect command of what is meant for the best should recommend, perm do the counterplan, then the plan only immediate combination is a voter delay, counterplan seal the F, perm other issues, functioning to the section, the non-trading perms are key to test. The germaneness of unpredictable artificial net benefits inserted below. Certainty is key to uncertain dispute resolution and credibility encourage states to race to hard power resolution. That's fine, man, and more. Counterplan flaw. It's a convention on the law of the sea, not the law of the sea. And precision ends bills and ratification. Federalism isn't zero sum. Ryan, 12 federalism champions often mistakenly assume a zero sum model. The boundaries really projection of ongoing negotiation. Conditionality is a voter no risk, FSC smooth or force. Shell responses encouraging argument of responsibility. Irresponsibility just preserves flex. Now the politics dissad. Navid, we already breached it. Uniqueness is 2 months old. Hurrying 129. The breach of the debt limit on January 21st and no vote till summer high at 113. 1-3, borrowing limit lawmakers made up to deal with it until the summer. Fiat shields only means 2/3 support for passage digital, but Fiat solves any of the turn from the link, and it's popular. More 23. Convention has impeccable Republican credentials, popular, powerful support for the security community, and all effective business, showing support from every security, CIA, national intelligence, CGNS, AJ, CS, and DOS, regardless of party affiliation. Losses supported primarily by Navy and business. Bush supported not pick up part of a liberal club, but because of important legal rights. The link is about any disputes over debts, which is long thumb because there's been numerous debt ceiling increases, but also recognizing that dollar hegemony is good, which means that all obliterates, and it's the reason why capitalism is good. Now the K proper
framework weigh the case against a competitive alternative with unique and causal links, prior questions, lower negative burdens, and move all speeches and preparation, minimizing fairness and clash. No other impacts. Losses are internalized, technically not changing blocks, not minds, and extinction outweighs life's prerequisites in the process is immensely painful. Perm do both. If the all can't overcome the planet, can't overcome the status quo, not the line by line on the answers to the preamps. They say no absolute decoupling. Their Hickel card is old. Grosso is way newer and provides the newest statistic like population growth is peaking now. Aluminum and gold are also increasing, and 33 countries have already decoupled, which answers any of the Hickel and any of the Hickel empirical evidence. They say that they take over the capitalist system, which answers any of the causal link between growth and economic freedom. It's wrong. It is inherently decimating it because our evidence is about economic freedom, which is capitalist, which means that if you have a communist system that overhauls the capitalist system, you cannot have any ability to actually have economic freedom. Now, decline doesn't cause conflict. While 20 do not think extraordinary conditions impact likelihood of work depressions were caused would be a lot more. U.S. suffered 40 recessions there. While 20 wars unrelated to the economy. No super intelligence impact. Pinker 18 growth. Goals are training intelligence system design rather than involved. Think like schmooze acquire no require info one domain at a time by formulating expansions, explanations, testing the data to find out their projects to build AGI advances come from moving force with little ability to lead into problems and brittle mastery. AGI means brain and the real world gets away value element depend on humans so gifted yes so moronic AI would be brilliant imbecilic AI is developed incrementally tested and tweaked for safety. Jobs will be eliminated quickly and it's good only capitalism provides sufficient innovation to solve warming and space colonization extinction 2022. Shaming growth is infeasible. Growth will go to zero from really emissions will fall far short of climate neutrality. Innovation evidence by vaccines builds on complexity and research and without efficient allocation social mobility incapable sustaining knowledge machinery that regulations are less effective when the desired behavior parts initiative cities are innovative hubs talent from multiple pools private companies you make new technologies applicable and useful makes the smartphone the fastest spreading technology profit seeking initiative space exploration can only be justified on a military headline private companies bring mission costs down to where tourism can be profitable income foundations for colonization at scale not reading the next part and international field is a better issue or at least a reason to reject the argument it allows infinite accurate but also infinite expansions of the all which means that solvency is either infinite or it is zero which means that they get to solve any part of the status quo and fiat away things like the world and do things like the world peace the world peace and counterplan which fiats that every single actor believes that the world should be peaceful.
Yeah, the link, I guess.
There's no link. There's no greenwashing or warming impact in the 1AC. I don't know what Navid read. He just read a warming defense impact in the 1C for no reason, which takes out his own impact card. But
There's none. There's no greenwashing. It's just the mining stuff. The SES narrative conceded. Oh, I didn't say how much prep I had left. I have 230.
Okay.
Sarah, you can
Anyone?
take prep.
Okay, to start prep. Does anyone have any thoughts for the 1ER in terms of like time allocation? Do you think it was good? And what are some pieces of offense that he put on each page that you think could be useful for the 2AR?
I'm gonna cold call somebody.
Okay.
Audio. I think that's how you say the name. Sorry.
You're like the first person to actually get it right. Damn.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Okay. Can
I
you
think
explain
yours-
what specifics were good about responding to the K?
Yeah, like you're good for responding to the K, and you like answered every like part of the K good. Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any thoughts? You really liked how at the end he said he removed his own impact. Yeah, that's a really good thing to point out, especially in 1ERs. Like obviously the 1ER is pressed for time in LD, so if the 1NC like makes mistakes, it's really important to call them out because it saves you time for having to read extra evidence or extra arguments. So that was definitely really smart. And I thought Michael's evidence comparison on the K was good. Yes, I agree.
Bodhi, why don't you explain which part was good?
Yeah.
So I thought your time allocations, I thought your time allocation was really good. Like the fact that you just like conceded the stuff you didn't go for case, like only spent like a max of like 30 seconds on case and just spent the rest of the time just on all the offs and like just gathering as much defense and offense as possible. I thought that was really well done.
Okay. Sammy Wawi. What parts of Cross do you think made it into the 1AR? Okay, it seems like Sammy Wawi. Okay. What parts of Cross do you think made it into the 1AR?
The perm was nice. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Does anyone have any thoughts about I guess one thing that like is good to point out is that Michael had offense on multiple parts of the 1 year. Like he read a theory argument, read cap good, like framework, which allows him to go for like the AF scenario independently outweighs. So I think that's like another thing to point out is just not putting all your eggs in one basket in the 1 ER, especially when the LD 1 ER is so hard, is a good idea. So I like how Michael diversified the 1 ER. And also like knew from the get-go, like based off of how cross goes, like he knew that the UCF counterplan and the politics DA were basically at zero. So he spent way more time on the K in the 1 ER because it was like preempting what the 2 ER was going to be, which is good.
Okay, to answer Haroon's argument or Haroon's question is that sometimes even though the 1NC construction for cap seems like it's like a disad counterplan argument, the 2NR can sometimes stand up and read framework that's like the 1AC is an object of research or that only representations matter, which means still reading that extinction outweighs is useful because unless the 1NC explicitly reads it themselves, there's always a 2NR out, which means that the 1AR closing that out is always a necessity. But also it's just a good thing to have in your framework blocks. Okay. Yeah, I'll explain perm other issues. So, real quick, while Navid's still prepping, perm other issues is just the idea that it's the plan over other issues, which some people abbreviate to perm other issues. And so there's inserted perm text, which is a little bit cheaty. You can get away with it in front of certain judges, but the idea is that you do the plan, um, and all the words of the plan and the counterplan are the same, or it includes all the words in the plan or the counterplan, but by changing or removing some of the words, it adds certain functions, i.e., one of the perm texts that I have is the United States ought to party on the sea, which changes the function of the plan and the counterplan. And and okay, I'll explain the first thing. But basically it just changes the function of the plan and the counterplan, or of the counterplan, and does the counterplan over something else, but still keeps all the words. Um, Politics disads in general say it doesn't say the plan won't pass. It says the plan will pass, but it'll take a lot of like disagreement in Congress, which saps political capital. The durable fiat answers the disad. That's just to answer the argument that says like, oh, disagreement in Congress will stop plan passage. Okay, now I'm gonna keep quiet so Naveed can prep.
I'll be done. I'll just waiting for you. Order's just going to be the counterplan, the disad, the K. And yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm gonna send. I have like 2 cards I'll send. Yeah. They're there.
I see them. I'm good.
Cool. I'm gonna take it that everyone's good. Again, for y'all's flows, order's just gonna be counterplan, disad. Oh, it's gonna be counterplan, disad, the condo debate, cap, and then international fiat.
Good.
Okay. All right. I'm for sure. On the NG counterplan, we'll kick out the counterplan, concede the perms, test the competition, and the voter doesn't stand because we're not a delayed counterplan. We're just saying process counterplan. And on the politics side, we'll concede that the plan already passed and that fiat shields. That's all defense, and that takes out the double turn with the cap K because if it already happened, then there's no dollar hedge impact because the plan already happened on condo. Counter-interpretation, we get condo, one negation two, the roll the next to disprove the plan, not defend, one straight turning counterplay is unpredictable because it deceptive the counterplay, not prove the counterplay is a good idea, arbitrariness of the causes, shifting goalposts, two neg flex, dispo friends, neg choice, and adaptation, a 1 yard tricks, turns fairness, and 3 innovation, they cause risk aversion instead of experimentation, 4 their impacts are inevitable, T and gateway issue case are inherently conditional, 5 reject the argument on the team, 6 dispo kills debate, incentivizes process counterplays to salvage neg flex because they force perms, and on the only Shasku or non-unique, we could have read more procedural distats, a 1 hour strategy solves the impact better and logical policy making outweighs on the K. Michaels missed the boat on the impact level. Capitalism's collapsing now. That takes out all their the cap good cars. Beam says the ecological tipping points being production terminally unsustainable. 2 impacts to A extinction, warming cause ocean acidification, of biodiversity loss makes the earth inhospitable and turns all their mining impacts. And it's the only irreversible impact which means it comes first in impact calculus, preserving capacity for human values. There's just like a good and B turns case collapses causes resource wars and ecological balance and wealth consolidation, which paves the way for neo-fascism imperial latch that intensifies their warming and biodiversity impacts at every level, which means it equals negative on all their impacts. They conceded a root cause warrant on the Beams evidence for war, which means that there's any risk that we do solve for the for war, which means you can vote comfortably vote neg, but it's try or die to generate organizing tactics can generate the speed, scope, and scale needed to confront the coming crisis, and on will extend the link that's a Pargo evidence. The greenwashing link, the after reliance on uncles, the solution warming, epitomize the neoliberal strategy, depoliticizing environmental crises by framing them as issues of governance solved through legal reform, like the AFF, when they say that they can just magically solve warming through REMS. It's an attempt to individualize responsibility, max the structural cause of warming by bringing one hegemon versus another hegemon to solve it. But capitalist production exploitation, but the rhetoric of cooperation under uncles redirects focus away from the systemic refusal of corporations to adopt radical solutions like the Altman, instead legitimating the illusion of the crisis under control that displaces revolutionary energy and sustains a very neoliberal agenda that perpetuates ecological destruction. But that turns case that relying on uncles, the app props up capital systems that commodify environmental governance, ensuring the continuation of the existential warming. That's Beams, the app naturalized the Marcus domination, turning the climate crisis into a performative gesture of reform by publishing it on God knows what website. But the illusion collapses, warming accelerates, empowering right-wing backlash and delegitimizing corporate global cooperation independently. The critiques mitigatory to their solvency, but the result is ecological collapse, rising seas, ecosystem destruction, and food system inevitability are inevitable, which instability are inevitable, which turns all their advantages to the framework they had endorsed guarantees failure, but on cap good. A top line will extend beams to take out the cap good that frames the impact turn debate collapses inevitable, which takes out the internal link to all their impacts, even if all their authors are true, which means that none of the impact turns are unique to the AFF. One, accumulation, industrial food production, resource extraction, emissions cause climate change and biodiversity loss, making the inner inhospitable. Drive for sustainability during impending doom causes nationalism, drives intensive conflict over resources, which is exactly what the AFF does. But 2, speculation, external material accumulation, the structure of markets lends itself to inevitable collapse by increasing bubbles to the undermining of local production, suppressing demand, and the failure to scale up wage values. It triggers cyclical crisis because surplus value can never be realized and forces bubbles to pop. Non-unique impacts as they get triggered by the market itself. But on, we'll answer the warrant. We'll concede no super intelligence impact. That's not the impact scenario we're going for. But on, we'll answer the innovation externals. We'll on emissions. The emissions data answers the wrong question. Have question. Equal 20. We're just sincere to the question whether this can be fast enough to stay between carbon budgets. The only scenarios that keep us under 2 Celsius involve degrowth. The review finds that decoupling of low and subject adequate. The less energy we use is easier to accomplish transition. And on space colonization does not solve existential risk for 19. Space settlement was not able to reach risk human extinction to be better to consider the even a minimum tech will be achieved in political and economic context will increase preparation. The most probable threats to the anthropogenic humans are not able to run for the risk that he rooted in their way of thinking, style, life, and population dynamics and capability. Space might have more research, but they're too hard to get. $17. Space accomplishment have been expensive and yielded few researchers analyzed not being no researchers. The orbits are getting crowded. The distances and time scales run to rule out colonization. But what makes it then we can live within a colony in a dead rock and a cold vacuum and encounter limits of growth in the hunter's power and independently cause the suffering risks that outweigh extinction. Go for 21. Makes space colonization make risk of astronomical scope, health severity, future generations, better wildlife, animals, short and miserable life will full suffering is not approved. They will be able to simulate suffering is colonizing human kind of greater capacities by capabilities by tapping into stars and stake this value greater than all happiness and created by colonization space. And on the perm top shelf, if we win a framework argument that takes away A, that takes away the net benefit to any perms is an offense, and B is a deceptive to the perms. We have a want of their starting point and research model is flawed, and 2 links are deceptive to the perm. Any risk of a link because the investment in the violence of capitalism does not deter the predetermined to a method of compromised politics, which obviously perpetuates an obvious, specific, and effective analysis to the way that capitalism pervades the AFF debate. And on purview, both we win a risk of a link that proves that the AFF is insufficient to start the process of organization to resolve the links. I mean, they serve as a set of permutation proves that this perm argument is silly, but on the alt, will extend although negative for communist organizing, this can Vanguard parties can recruit members by providing systems such as food, water, counseling, shelter, employment, or education to show the masses that failures of capitalism create disincentive for maintaining a system. This is just endless institution building. This work for a formal public organization. The communist parties on to directly challenge capitalism. Chris at the PKK in Kurdistan and the Zapatistas movement is the most capable model of organizing. He dropped all the empirics on that evidence, but only communist policies make explicit accountability mechanisms that ensure true praxis while providing a strategy that overturns the system. Any strategy that can is the failure and co-option. And on the international field, we'll say that it's good for fairness and class because it prevents debate from being skewed towards powerful nation states and inevitably sanitize the balance that they advocate for, ensuring equal grounds, which is fair and it provides more class because we actually debate about actors and the morality of actors. Good night.
334.
Okay. While Michael is prepping for the 2AR, does anyone have any thoughts or comments for the 2NR? The impacts are irreversible. Yeah, that's a good framing argument. So especially in cap debates where it's more of like a material impact debate, it's good to do like regular impact calculus that sort of mirrors like a dissent debate or a policy debate, which makes the 2AR difficult if the 2AR wants to go for extinction outweighs because they're like impact filters that the 2NR has very clearly isolated. How does the K have an impact if there was no warming card read in the 1 and C? I think that there probably was. The impact card to the cap critique was about how like capitalism controls a laundry list of like extinction threats, which I think like makes it 2NR fine. I think that was the beams card. Yeah, the beams card.
Beams card, and then I read the Hickel 20 that like cap like controls emissions levels and we cite the studies of that. But yeah, the beams card was more of a thesis of like why cap controls warming. And then Michael read cap good on me. Because of warming, that was the internal. The internal was innovation, but he read that warming is a terminal to that. So I read that emissions, like the data disagrees with that, according to the critique.
Does anyone have any other comments for the 2NR or like potentially what they think that the 2AR should be, more the 2AR with arguments the 2AR should go for? Okay. Well, someone's answering the first question. What international fiat? So international fiat bad is a theory argument, which says that it's unfair for negative teams to use their scope of negative fiat to like fiat like an international revolution. So the alternative to the capitalism critique is like communist organizing that happens internationally. There's people who like obviously like private actors all across the world that the alternative would have to affect to like stop the profit motive. So that affirmative teams would say that it's bad because it allows for the negative to fiat anything. It makes it impossible to be AF because you can't generate good deficits versus alternatives that can fiat whatever they want. Okay.
I didn't like flow Michael reading that. I thought he kicked that out. But even if like the way I would have responded to the military subsalt is that like the evidence doesn't talk about like the evidence talks about a counterinsurgency and doesn't really talk about a organized like Marxist movement. But second, like honestly, try or die. That's what the extension of the Beams evidence talked about, how it's like try or die to generate organizing strategies against it. So even if they do, if there's like a 1% risk they don't get co-opted, then why not try, right?
Okay.
Here, there's
Did
one more.
not read concede military stops, y'all, but I'll
Wait, Michael,
answer.
there's one more question in the chat.
Okay.
What can you use the CapK for? You can use the CapK like even if the AF advantage isn't econ, the fact that like Navid read links to the like rhetoric of the 1AC in terms of its like environmental policy is another way you can generate links to the CapK. And Michael also read cap good. So you just like agree, like you basically agree with the link. There was like minimal link defense in the 1ER, which is like means the critique is still a viable option for the 2NR. Okay.
Okay.
Now
Real quick, I'm just going to explain the international field argument. It's a neat trick. The idea is you read it, they read, reject the argument, and you go for it as a reason why the alternative cannot have global solvency, i.e., they cannot just fiat away capitalism on a global scale, which means that the alternative solvency is diminished. So it's not really an argument you go for so that they lose. It's more so the argument that you go for so that it diminishes all solvency, which you may or may not see play out here. Who knows? The order is just the K. Is anyone not ready? Navid?
I'm
Okay.
good.
The issue with the 2-R is that Navid read warming defense and biodiversity defense in the 1-C and read a dollar hedge scenario, which means that capitalism is good because it preserves the dollar's hegemony and hard power. Now, we're going to do the line by line here. First, the dollar hedge scenario. We both agree that it is existential and outweighs any of their scenarios. Concede that it is the highest probability impact, but also is the largest magnitude. Even if Beams is right that there's some reason why capitalism causes some level of conflict or fascism, their scenario is much worse because dollar hegemony will crush all of the other scenarios, but also means that it is the only scenario that stands and that dollar hegemony preserves every single existential, or the dollar hegemony preserves and stops every single existential scenario. Now, the decoupling defense. There is no reason why this matters insofar as Navid read warming defense in the 1-C and that warming is inevitable in the 1-C, but also biodiversity defense. But we're extending the Grosso card here. It's so much better than their Hegel evidence, but also so much better than the 2-R's Hegel evidence that says that there are numerous capitalist indicts, there are numerous capitalist funding inside of the emission society and data, which is wrong because you should just indict an author or leave. But also Grosso is new, just did not respond to any of the empirics, like how population growth is peaking, how aluminum is at 400%, and then how 33 countries are decoupling, and there are numerous EVs that reduce emissions. Capitalism is sustainable. All the accumulation warrants are not in the 1-C, and you should have a high threshold for an EV just spouting new things in the 2-R that are not there. Accumulation not there. Speculation not in the 1-C. Beams was not did not say a word on that, but surplus value can be actualized, which is all of the evidence from Grosso, which is basically conceded, and the 2-R has no analysis on it. Now, the last thing that we have to deal with is the Beams evidence and the turns case analysis. First, the turns case analysis is wrong because it's all about the way climate change accelerates impacts, which means that if we win some sort of dollar hedge scenario that turns the K, we do not need to win any part of the advantage, but only that capitalism is good. There is no environmental scenarios that can turn the case or cause any external impacts to this dollar hedge or the cap good bad debate, because they just conceded that there's no warming impact whatsoever, so it cannot possibly turn the case. Now, the last thing is the Beams argument. There's no reason why capitalism causes fascism or any kind of conflict. The evidence from the 1-C, which is extremely good and is much better than the 1-AC, which is much better than the 1-C's evidence that says the capitalism causes conflict. The 1-AC's evidence is much better and also has verified empirics, which means that there's no reason why any of the speculation, unsustainability, profit, motive, bad impacts are viable, because the 2-R just did not answer any of the cards and did not extend any argument for why they solve some sort of war, which means that that economic freedom empirically decreases conflict, which is an independent impact. There's the dollar hedge scenario, which outweighs the non-existent emission scenario. The 1-C just gutted the 2-R. The space call debate is the last float. No reason why the asterisk page from the space call debate means that you vote negative, because there is not a reason why space call works. Conceding defense to space call means that there's no reason why, if we continue with capitalist innovation, it'll lead to space call. We're not going for the scenario. The AI impact doesn't matter. The decline impact, Navid just conceded defense. Like, the 1-C gutted itself. There is no impact to warming, which is all of the stuff from the 1-C and the 2-R. There's no nationalism impact. Conceded empirics flow AFF mean that it is only a question of whether or not dollar hegemony is good.
The decision was everyone good for that? The decision? Okay, it was for the affirmative, and generally the vibe of the RFDs was that the negative or the 2-R impacts were light on the impact level, and the 2-R strategy was good at talking about why their evidence was bad, how the 2-R didn't do any evidence comparison, or I guess that was the crux of most of the RFDs, and how the AF impact at the end of the debate outweighs on the impact level. So, Michael, Navid, do you have any thoughts on that portion of the debate? It was mostly about the warming page.
Okay. Since Navid's not here, I'll explain my thoughts first. I think actually that the 2-AR was pretty messy. I think it should have been a lot more centralized towards first impacts and then defense. I kind of jumped around a decent bit, and I think the cleanest 2-AR would have just been the dollar hedge scenario, the impact defense to warming from the 1-C, and then cleaning up all the turns case analysis from the 2-R. So that order is the best one, but I kind of jumped around to dollar hedge, sustainability, etc. Since sustainability doesn't matter as much, considering there's no warming impact, it's just about cleaning up the turns case and the implication of the sustainability stuff. And then I'll explain the 1-AR real quick, and then Navid can go through. I think the 1-AR is a little bit lacking. Yes, there's some offense on pages, but the process counterplan is a viable 2-R with the state of LD, where the 2-R can read 16 cards for competition. And the politics dissat is a viable 2-R, where the 2-R has uniqueness evidence, oh, they're pushing the debt ceiling up now, which is true. Yes, we've hit the brink, but they're pushing it up again. And I think the 1-AR allocation makes sense, knowing that Navid will go for the K, but if you don't know what your opponent is going to go for, it doesn't make as much sense. considering the 1AR is a little bit light on other options that could possibly be there. So I think that if I were to re-give the speech, I would probably cram a little bit more into the 1AR and just a little bit less on the impact defense of the cap scenario, since that can always be dealt with by other analysis, such as like cap sustainable, cap not going to cause bad AI, etc., which is all offensive and not defensive, but also take less time.
Navid?
Yeah, that I try to go for like like sort of like perf con's good, not proper, not like exactly, but sort of that like I can test the AF from multiple angles and that stuff is condo because of course like the NGA counterplan or uncooperative federalism is as patriotic as it gets, and then of course with Marxism it's like a huge like parallel. But I guess the answer in the tunar like to my tunar to like how dollar hedge doesn't cause nuclear war is that like there's no link because since it already happened, pole cap doesn't apply because pole cap or politics is like sort of like current events as it gets because like your uniqueness has to be like super recent. But yeah, the tunar kind of like what I try to do with this tunar is like show that like cap is sort of like a root cause argument because there is this misconception, and I had this too when I first started debate, that like cap can only explain like big stick econ impacts, like econ good, oh, that's a link. But the point was to like use the beams evidence or whatever thesis you use to explain everything. But yeah, what Michael did well is using the mistakes of the 1 and C and the contradictions of the 1 and C, mainly like, look, he's saying that the dollar collapsing will kill us all, but also cap will too. So what am I supposed to do? And that's a good strategy he used is like a lot of people go for like as big of a dump as they can in the 1 and C on the case and stuff. No pun intended. But the thing is that like what Michael did really well in the 1AR is, and especially on a time crunch, is using the 1 and C to take out other parts of the 1 and C because a lot of people put contradictions in there. But yeah, I try to go for like, you know, since I'll just concede the non-unique since it already happened. But yeah, that's a good strategy he used. Um,
Hear what we think the 2NR should have been if we weren't locked in an AFF-BK debate. UCF counterplan.
Do you agree? The UCF counterplan should have been the two. Well, I mean, I think that was really the only option, if not the critique, because politics is at 0, uniqueness is like done. UCF counterplan is always a good process option, and
Oh, I actually kind of lied about the politics thing. We hit the debt ceiling, but there's still like a 3-month period where we don't default and we can put out another bill.
that's also like in 3 months. I don't think like politics is like actually
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Politics is not a good 2NR. Like,
Definitely not.
given the topic, a lot
Also,
of the best 2NRs are counterplans or Ks, since a lot of topic disads are a little bit questionable.
There's also 0 offense on the UCF counterplan in the 1AR. It's just competition and then impact defense, which is sufficient, but also is like not offensive, and every other page was, which is why like the 2 and R and the UCF counterplan would have been good if you just answer competition, and which is probably easier since the 1AR and the 2AR are shorter than the 2 and R. You have more time to read your competition blocks, so that probably should have been the 2 and R.
Audia, then Cameron, then Chloe Wren. I'm assuming that's Chloe Wren.
or wait, someone asked a question.
Oh, okay.
I got
I'll answer this. Or
sure.
Navid, you got
No,
this,
you can go
actually.
if you want. You get on
Well,
air.
you read the UC. Okay, I'll
Sure,
explain
sure.
one deficit and then you can explain like
Yeah,
another one.
sure.
So the
Okay.
deficits that I read are the certainty deficit, which is just that generically on the topic, most of it's about business advisors or like dispute resolution, and both of them require certain avenues, like clean and certain avenues to actually work, which means absent like certainty, they fail. Then the other deficit I read was just that Navid forgot to put convention of in the counterplan text, which is a counterplan flaw, which is questionable as to whether or not that's a deficit, but I just threw that in there because I saw it when I was skimming over the 1 and C.
Sure. My favorite is the word that scares all process counterplan debaters, and it's circumvention. You could argue that with empirics, and you could get evidence, but also not. I mean, depends like the threshold of your judge, but also just say circumvent it. If I were to hit a counterplan, I would read empirics, that like because the whole point of the UCF counterplan is like the states and the NGA are holding like holding all these like important stuff over the Fed, and all the federal government can do is pass the plan. But that's the like the huge assumption that the neg or the counter plan hinges on. But if you can make the argument that it gets circumvented ultimately and they do pass the plan, then it's basically game over, if you lose that debate proper, because circumvention is just like, okay, the AF doesn't even happen, right? So that's my favorite, but Michael's is also great. Just depends what avenue you want to go down.
Okay, the next question was how does the alternative to the cap case solve? Navid, do you want to take that question since you read the cap
Sure.
case?
Well, I didn't really like do the whole alt solves thing page, but as long as it resolves the links, is the argument that I made, is that like communist organizing prevents the profit motive. And it's not really a question of whether or not it solves for an international from like an I-law perspective, but more so just resolving the links on the CapK. Um, well, just resolving the thesis itself, because the thesis is like profit motive, extraction, all that. But if you can, the Kuhn evidence, which will be in a resource drop question mark, I think after this, talks about how like localized struggles against capitalism, like the alt describes, do inevitably resolve capitalism, and that's what the advocacy is. Um, and how like, yeah, that's basically it. Um, sort of just, it's kind of like the antithesis of capitalism, so that's kind of how the alt quote solves. But in question of like how it gets circumvented, just like maybe you could go like the try or die route, that like either capitalism kills us all, or we at least take a shot in the dark at worst against it. But yeah. But Sarah, if you want to take over, you also like the cap K.
Yeah, no, wait, I think that explanation was fine. I do like the cap K. I also
Oh,
think that I guess it is fine to go for just like the alternative resolves the links. Links outweigh the case. Part of what makes the 2AR or what the 2NR could have done to make the 2AR really hard is arguments as to why the alternative would solve internal links to cap good. So like obviously the alternative cannot like resolve like the impact of capitalism is good because it says capitalism is bad, but it can resolve things like global warming, innovation. There are like cards about that. So if it resolves the internal links, then it is fine, and the 2AR cannot go for offense, which is just a way to get rid of 2AR offense. Other than that, I think your answer was fine. Does anyone else have any other questions? Why can't the 2R go for offense? Well, if the 2 and R makes arguments about why the alternative solves their internal links, then the 2AR can't be like, oh, our impacts independently outweigh because it does not account for the fact that the alternative solves for them anyway. So that means that the 2AR like would have to answer the alternative and then also go for their offense, which makes the 2AR more difficult. Does that make sense?
I think the wording of it for what Sarah is trying to say is like cap solves innovation, or socialism solves innovation, socialism solves etc. Like all those things um is what Sarah means.
What's a smart 2AR strat to respond to that? You can just say it doesn't. Just generating like deficits to the alternative by saying only our internal links are like specific enough. And not just like the intricacies of the cap good, cap bad debate. You just have to win that it is like not true that socialism resolves these things. And then that debate can start early in the 1AR. If your cap good cards are good, then they should automatically answer them. How is perfcon different from condo? Perfcon says that the 1 and C has like read two contradictory arguments, and conditionality says that you can't kick out of arguments in the 2 and R.
Okay. I think we're mostly wrapping up, but I think I'll explain like one last thing, or like I'll just mention one last thing. I think the 2AR should have actually been framework, because the framework interpretation is that you should weigh the case against a competitive alternative with unique and causal links, which doesn't mean that they get all links. It just means that they get links that are A, unique to the plan, and B, causal, or the plan causes them, which the greenwashing link is not, because A, it's a rhetoric slash reps link, which means it's non-unique, and B, the plan doesn't necessarily cause it, which means going for framework excludes a link, which means that negative has not met their burden of rejoinder, which means you go to A. But that's the less educational debate. And Julia popped in.
Okay, because I think we're wrapping up here, can we give it up for our debaters and our moderator for this debate? Thank you so much. In terms of how you can watch this debate or how you can see their cases later today, you obviously got the link to the speech drop, and we will have everything posted on our next resource drop along with this YouTube video, which you're either seeing right now or you're watching live. And that should hopefully be up by the end of February in our February resource drop. So be on the lookout for that. Um, in terms of other resources, more things you can look at, obviously, Michael dropped some stuff down in the chat that you can definitely look at for educational resources. You can also check out the Debate Hotline's blog page where we have a lot of LD resources and other kinds of resources. We have a huge K file that might be interesting to you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can reach out to me directly, or you could reach out to the Debate Hotline on Instagram. But we are super, super excited that you were here for our very first demo debate, which happened to be an LD debate. And we hope you will check us out over at the Debate Hotline and check out all of our resources. So we very much appreciate you being here. Special thank you to Michael, Navid, and Sarah for moderating and debating this today's debate. But thank you all for being here, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you so much.